Good afternoon and welcome to the October 22nd Strategic Plan Committee meeting. You hear feedback? Can you hear me well? Okay. I would like to get started by doing introductions, starting with Ms. Evans.
Shebra Evans, great to see everyone on this nice Friday afternoon. Looking forward to the conversation.
Ms. Aluni.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hana Aluni, student member.
Ms. Harris.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And could I ask my colleagues to please let me know if there's any changes to the meeting summary from our last meeting? No? Okay. Can I get approval of the agenda for today?
Move approval.
Thank you. All right, so today we are going to embark upon the last phase of our strategic plan development, which is looking at our strategies. In previous committee meetings, we have set objectives, we have set measures, and today we will see the strategies that are going to get us to meet those objectives. We have a lot of content to cover today, and so I would ask my colleagues to pay special attention to what we're measuring, because as they say, if it doesn't get measured, it doesn't get done. And so we have a lot of strategies, but just pay close attention to what we're measuring, make sure that it's going to accomplish the objectives that we have in mind as we get through this presentation. And so for now, will pass it on to Ms. Ron, who will get us started and also introduce her team here today.
Thank you, Ms. Silvestri. I do want to allow everybody to introduce themselves. We do have a number of people here, as you can see today, because we are covering a lot of ground. So I do want the presenters all to have an opportunity, or I will actually, introduce the presenters to you. So presenters, if you could just turn your cameras on when I call your name so that you can be seen and we can move forward with the presentation. So we have Dr. Keisha Addison. She is here today. Just a second.
Good afternoon.
We have Miss Jeannie Dawson, who is our Chief of Office of Finance and Operations. Again, Dr. Addison is, I'm sorry, I didn't say, she's the Director of Office of Shared Accountability. We have Miss Nikki Hazel, who is Associate Superintendent, Office of Curriculum and Instruction.
Hi.
We have Mr. John Landsman, Executive Director in the Office of Strategic Initiatives.
Hello.
We have Miss Libby Rogovoy, who is the Executive Assistant in the Office of Human Resources and Development.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Scott Murphy, Director, Department of College and Career Readiness.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Travis Wiebe, Director of the Department of Certification and Staffing.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And then we have a number of audience members as well who are going to be here and are on standby to answer any questions that you might have. We also have Mr. Everett Davis, who will be presenting today, and he is the Acting Associate Superintendent on the Office of Student and Family Support and Engagement. He should be here momentarily.
Good afternoon, I'm here.
Oh, thank you, Everett. I didn't see you there.
No problem.
So at this time, if we can pull the slide deck up, please. So we're very excited today to bring back to you and provide you an update on everything strategic planning from our last meeting that we had with the full board on October 5th. We have, like I said, a number of colleagues at the table and in the virtual audience and have engaged in a great deal of collaborative work over the past few weeks. Next slide, please. So as a reminder, I just want to remind everybody what strategic planning entails and what it is. So when we think about strategic planning, we have to remember that it is the process of setting goals, deciding on actions to achieve those goals, and mobilizing the resources necessary to take action. A strategic plan describes how goals will be achieved through the use of available resources. And it's a way to align the broader community around better student outcomes. And it's used to achieve broad goals of improving student outcomes and responding to changing demographics. Next slide, please. So this graphic was shared at the board table and at the Strategic Planning Committee in September. And we did make a little bit of a change to it based on the feedback from the board, where it says students prepared for, originally said college and career. We added and community based on the feedback that we heard. And as a reminder, this graphic is to represent how we are organizing around our strategic priorities. So we are organized around three main priorities: academic excellence, well-being and family engagement, and professional and operational excellence. These are all grounded in our core values of respect, relationships, equity, excellence, and learning. And all of that together will lead to our students being prepared for college, career, and community. Next slide, please. So as we review the strategic plan today, it is critical for us to remember that it was created in the midst of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. Every aspect of how our families and staff have lived their lives have been altered, and every structure that supported the education of over 160,000 students in 208 schools were suddenly cracked as all life ground to a halt in March of 2019. While in-person schools back for most staff and students, what we lost 20 months ago has not fully returned. We know that the pandemic exacerbated but didn't completely cause all of the discrepancies that we see in student achievement data. Despite our love for all children and committed leaders and staff who work long hours, strong community support, and overall data that outperforms most districts around the country, and our core value of equity, we do know that we do have more work to be done, and it will take innovation in order to do that. The pandemic has taught us that we cannot go back to doing business as usual before COVID-19, and it has also taught us that when people and institutions come together, we can accomplish great things. And for these reasons, this strategic plan is designed to be a living, breathing document that we can alter and change as we move forward and examine our results, our data, and implementation of our strategies. In a minute, we're going to review the board's priorities along with the expected outcomes, performance targets, and key strategies that will be implemented to reach these outcomes. But first, I want to remind everybody here and for our community about the two structures that are going to help make this strategic plan more responsive and effective. Next slide, please. The first, again, is a visual you have seen many times before, and that is our district strategic initiatives implementation plan. This represents the how we are going to be achieving the goals set forth by the Board of Education in the strategic plan. And this also represents the innovation that we anticipate being able to implement through the strategies that we identify. And as a reminder, our DSIP, or our District Strategic Initiatives Implementation Plan, is composed of over 120 staff, students, and community members. And they work in 5 separate project teams in order to analyze data, review the impact of strategies, and suggest ways to better meet our goals and outcomes. Next slide, please. The second structure that we started last year is the anti-racist system audit. And this initiative is designed to help MCPS better understand the historic barriers that have led to persistent achievement gaps and inequitable outcomes for students. As you have seen in the data, racial disparities can be seen in almost every area of MCPS, from reading levels, participation in high-level classes, graduation rates, suspension, discipline rates, and staff. These disparities have been exacerbated by COVID-19, and the analysis of the anti-racist system audit will provide insight into whether the strategic plan strategies are the right ones. Next slide, please. So as we review and implement the strategic plan, it is important that we do so through our anti-racist lens. While there are many definitions, this is the working definition that we have in MCPS and that we have been working with. And we ask that everybody think about the strategic plan strategies, performance targets, as well as objectives and outcomes from this lens. We believe, and just as a refresher, that we are actively working to ensure racial justice by identifying, interrupting, and dismantling racist practices, policies, and attitudes that disproportionately harm communities of color. What you see in the bullets are how we believe that we need to actualize this work. Next slide, please. Now that we have that lens to which we are going to take a look at our outcomes and our priorities, I'm going to go over the actual details of the strategic plan. So our plan is to take one priority at a time today. Dr. Keisha Addison is going to go over for each of the priority areas when we get to them. She's going to go over the outcomes, the indicators, and the performance targets. And that performance targets piece is new from our last, and we did make some upgrades to the outcomes and the objectives along the way as well. Our colleagues will then go over some of the specific strategies, and then we'll break for discussion after each of the priority areas, since we know it's consuming a lot of information. Just as a caveat, we don't have time to provide an in-depth understanding of each of the strategies because we would be here for a much longer period of time. Rather, we want to go over a couple of the important strategies and give you a high-level overview that provides a window into how we are working to address each of the objectives. And that is what my colleagues are going to be presenting to you here today. More depth on the strategies are provided at other board presentations and will be presented throughout the year to the Strategic Planning Committee. So for instance, when I say that, when we think about the mitigation of learning disruption and the strategies to improve mathematics and literacy, you're going to see that you'll have been very familiar with some of the strategies here because they were presented in multiple board presentations in September as well through a deeper analysis. So today we'll be allowed to provide you that bird's eye view of some of the key strategies that we're identifying to reach each of our objectives. So at this time, with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Keisha Addison, Director of the Office of Shared Accountability.
Thank you and good afternoon. For this first priority area, which is academic excellence, there are 7 objectives, and I will go into more detail on the next few slides about each objective and the associated indicators. As Ms. Sharon shared, data will be shared regarding the baseline data as well as the baseline data used to develop the 2024-2025 performance targets. In some areas, you may not see baseline data, and for those areas, we continue to be in the process of compiling the data and plan to have it available for the full board meeting focused on the strategic plan. Next slide, please. For this priority area, there are 2 objectives provided on this slide. For improving achievement in literacy and mathematics, the indicators are those aligned with the All-In Equity and Achievement Framework. And so the first is the % of students meeting evidence of learning in literacy and math. And detailed on the slide are the 2021 baseline data for all students, and beside it, the 2024-2025 performance target. And just for clarity, the performance target is the target for the 2024-2025 school year and is not the target for each year leading up to it. Incremental targets will be developed to help us gauge how we are progressing to meet the overarching target. The next 2 indicators under this objective are also components from the All-In Equity and Achievement Framework. They are from the Equity Accountability Model. And again, the 2024-2025 targets are indicated on the slide. The next objective indicated is increase the percentage of students graduating high school, and there are 3 associated indicators. The first is the 4-year graduation rate, then the 5-year graduation rate, and then the last indicated is the graduation rate component from the Equity Accountability Model. Next slide, please. On this slide are the remaining objectives and associated indicators for academic excellence. Noted here is the objective to increase access to enriched and accelerated opportunities for students in underrepresented groups, specifically students receiving free and reduced price meal system services or farms services, special education, and ESOL services. You will notice the baseline numbers for each of these service groups with the performance target for 2024-2025 to increase by 25%. The next objective is the Maryland College and Career Readiness rates, followed by improving completion rates to career and technical education programs, increasing post-secondary education enrollment, and increasing career training opportunities for all students. And the last objective under this priority area is aligns to some of the feedback we received from you, Ms. Harris, in terms of ensuring that we're focused on work-based learning. I will now turn it over to Ms. Hazel, who will share more information on the strategies under this priority area.
Okay, thank you very much. Next slide, please. And I am going to be presenting with Mr. Murphy on this priority area around academic excellence. And I'm going to start with literacy and mathematics. Not going to read everything to you, but hopefully you can see through this that there is a great deal of effort put towards our professional learning this school year, not only through the content areas, but also at the district level. We are working very closely with our assistant chief in professional learning around how we build the capacity of all of our school-based and central-based leaders around this work. So I'm going to highlight one area, particularly in literacy, and that is around our primary literacy skills. As we saw the data from Evidence of Learning a few weeks ago, our primary students really did have an impact with the pandemic. And we know how critical it is for our students to be reading by grade 3. And so we have dedicated a great deal of our planning to our primary literacy, increasing the instructional time for our foundational skills instruction, increasing the decodable texts and other resources for our schools. And we have provided our teachers and teacher leaders with the professional development around science of reading, which is kind of the new term that incorporates really how to teach young learners how to read with the phonics, phonemic awareness, and decoding, and all of those skills that are needed to learn to read before students can use those skills in those upper grades. So that is a huge focus of our work this year. In mathematics, the professional learning is really focused on the pacing of the instruction this school year so that we can really ensure we are accelerating that learning for students and ensuring that they are at grade level, and ensuring that we have fidelity of instruction of new curriculum as we enter back into school buildings. We want to make sure that teachers really have the critical skills they need to implement the curriculum in the way it was intended. And so we will be using our report card data and district assessments to monitor in between those big assessments to monitor whether or not students are making adequate growth in both mathematics and in literacy as well. I also want to share that a significant amount of work has occurred with our English learners. And a lot of work has been taking place with professional learning for our teachers, both our general education teachers and our ESOL teachers. We want to make sure that our students are being taught at grade level standard, and that we are also infusing that English language development instruction. So co-planning, co-teaching, and also joint professional learning is taking place. And we will use not only our district measures, but also want to use our ESOL levels to make sure that students are making progress with those levels. We see a lot of students that get stuck at level 3. And so we want to make sure that we are paying very close attention to students at that level and making sure they are moving. We also, we know that we had a large number of students who have entered our school district who have interrupted formal education. And so we have those coaches that we hired this school year who are supporting our teachers in the local classrooms as they are teaching the students. And we want to make sure, again, that they are getting opportunities to learn with their grade level peers, and that we are supporting teachers as they are doing that. I know Ms. Silvestri challenged us to come up with accountability measures for those students. And so we are working on that and should be ready to share those measures at the next time we meet. Next slide, please. The next, if you can go to the next slide. The next area that we want to focus on is really just making sure that we are increasing the percentage of students graduating. Again, want to really stress how important it is for students to receive instruction at the grade level. That is our ESOL students, our special education students are included in that unless there is a special circumstance that is indicated on an IEP. We expect that our students have those opportunities, and we've been working very closely with our high school teachers to ensure that that is occurring. And much of that professional learning focused on accelerating the learning, moving towards those graduation standards. We also have a team in Office of Teaching, Learning in Schools working with our technology office for graduation validation. And that team monitors progress of our students to ensure that they are moving towards graduation. Also for special education, we have a transition team that conducts check-ins with our students in grade 11 and those students with disabilities to make sure that they are moving towards graduation as well. Next slide, please. Next area is related to increasing access to enriched and accelerated opportunities for our underrepresented students. Just highlighting a few areas here, we still have the practice in our Title I schools of our primary development coaches and really trying to target and meet the needs of our students at a very young age to ensure that we are tapping into their potential and they are having opportunities for enrichment, because that gets into that next bullet, which is really access to our accelerated courses when you get into the upper elementary levels. If we can tap into that potential at the primary level, we can see the payoff as the students get older. And this year we have changed our process slightly with central identification of students in our accelerated math courses so that we can ensure we aren't missing students through the process. So schools can also add to those numbers, but we want to make sure centrally that we have really looked very carefully at our data and identified students for those accelerated courses. And finally, we just want to share again that we offer courses for enrichment and acceleration at the middle school level through our high school offering, mathematics courses, our world languages, and global humanities courses that students can take that at their local schools that really provide that strong enrichment and acceleration. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Murphy to continue.
Thank you. And to the next slide, please. So first, I wanted to acknowledge the board for putting career readiness such front and center to the strategic plan. So I'm going to talk about some of the high leverage key strategies that we are working on and working towards as it relates to both college and career readiness. In terms of increasing the college and career readiness rates that you see each year with a goal of 100%, some of the things that you may be aware of that we are doing and will continue to expand upon are the universal access to college readiness examinations like the SAT and PSAT during the school day. Ensuring that the college examinations like an AP or IB exam, that we are providing fee assistance for students who need it. Our ongoing expansion of dual enrollment, early college, middle college is another strategy that is increasing those college and career readiness rates. And we also see GPA referenced here because GPA is another avenue, not only towards college readiness, but also taking courses at Montgomery College, for example, immediately for credit without the need for remediation, GPA being an important indicator of that for college and career readiness rates. Next slide is the improvement of completion rates for career and technical education, or CTE programs. You noted on an earlier slide an ambitious goal of 45% of our graduates by the year 2025 completing career and technical education programs or earning industry certification. Some of our key strategies to get there, you're aware of our changing access points to CTE programs such as at Seneca Valley, the new Wheaton-Edison partnership, expanding programs at Gaithersburg, and ensuring that all students countywide have access to these programs in a regional model without needing far travel to get there. We're now and will be providing fee assistance for exams and for industry credentials. Our partnerships with strategic partners such as Kid Museum, Montgomery College, Montgomery Can Code, ensuring that early exposure so that our students are entering high school ready and aware of CTE programs. Our outreach and recruitment are key strategies for expanding access for students. And the employer community, the companies, the industries, we need their partnership to expand opportunities for students, as well as not only just monitoring completion, but monitoring the progress of how students get there by enrolling in a course to concentrating in a series of courses to completing a full program. Next slide, please. Is increasing post-secondary education enrollment. Again, dual enrollment, as you know, a key strategy, not only for post-secondary enrollment, but in all of these areas. Our work with equal opportunity schools to help underrepresented students access and succeed in AP and IB courses has been a key strategy in increasing not only post-secondary enrollment, but also success. Again, access to college readiness examinations, the way that we use Navigators to help students not only map out four-year plans, but also connect to their plans for post-secondary, as well as the expanding college fair opportunities that we have here in Montgomery County with a focus on some of our traditionally underrepresented students. We're also ramping up efforts to ensure that students have access to all of the financial aid infrastructure and supports as they navigate the transition to post-secondary. Next slide is the addition based on some feedback, which is a really, really good one, of increasing career training opportunities for all of our students. This also has an ambitious goal of 45% of our graduates by the year 2025, which aligns with the More Jobs for Marylanders Act at the state level that has set a target at 45% because this is so important. This is our first year of launching Apprenticeship Maryland, which is a youth apprenticeship program that will be available in all of our high schools and ramping up over the next few years. The business and industry partnerships are one of the keys here to ensure that there are opportunities for our students to have on-site real-life experiences. But we also, a key strategy is expanding those that are in-house in MCPS, particularly with pathways in the trades. We, MCPS, are the largest employer in Montgomery County, so we really should be leading the way with providing these career training opportunities for our students, and that's part of our strategy over the next couple of years. Another important piece is improving our structures and processes, our infrastructure, the work of our work-based learning supervisor, the work of the internship coordinators, the use of data to ensure that we and the employer community are able to match opportunities for students and track their progress. I also wanted to call out our ongoing work unified with Montgomery College and universities at Shady Grove so that we have one voice to the employer community joint from the education institutions, as opposed to a siloed approach, because this career training is important to all of us across all of the educational institutions. We also have partnerships such as the Trans Ed Academy for Working Students, TAWS, Urban Alliance, and others that will also be additional supports to providing these really, really important real-life career training opportunities for our students. So I think that concludes the academic excellence portion, and we will turn it back to you, Ms. Silvestri, for discussion.
Thank you. And I will open it up to my colleagues for questions, starting with Ms. Aluni.
Yes, I have a few things. The first thing that really stood out to me in this area of academic excellence is that there isn't much mention or really any at all from what I could see, of reviewing our curriculum. So reviewing our curriculum in English and math, in CTE programs as well. And I think especially in a post-pandemic world, but also as technology is continually evolving, the workforce is continually evolving, it's really important that we're doing curriculum reviews. And so I don't know if someone can respond to that, if it could be added, if it's not embedded in there already.
Yeah, so we could certainly add to that. We are in the process of beginning our curriculum review, starting at the elementary and middle school levels with our new curriculum in literacy and mathematics. You know that we purchased curriculum in 2018, and so we are beginning, or was it 19? We're beginning our third year of implementation, and so for some schools it was all new in the pandemic. Other schools started just before the pandemic, and so we are going to begin with one elementary literacy and do an evaluation of that program. And then we will add on to the others. We also are working with Maryland State Department of Education for our high school curriculum. They are actually doing evaluations of all school district curriculum in literacy and mathematics. And they have been working with us. Also got started right before the pandemic and had to kind of put things on hold, but evaluating our literacy curriculum. And then all of the others, we do evaluations periodically in science and social studies and other areas and get input. We have a curriculum advisory committee that is made up of school-based staff, administrators, parents, and students. And we meet with them 4 times a year. So any adjustments we make to curriculum, we go through that advisory committee.
Okay. I think if possible, that would be a great thing to include as part of our strategic plan. Also, maybe even looking at our course offerings as a whole, not just looking at the curriculums that we already offer, but also what curriculums are we lacking and electives and things like that, I think are really important to study, especially in disparities across schools as well, the courses that are being offered, because I think more students will graduate when they feel like what they're learning in their classes is relevant to their lives and is worth learning. That will increase graduation and will also make our students more college, career, community ready. So that was the first thing I wanted to mention. The second thing was in regards to enriched opportunities and increasing participation in them from our underrepresented groups. I saw farms, ESOL, and special education students and their percentages listed there. I didn't see any racial demographic breakdown, and I think that's also a really important thing to track across our enriched opportunities. So if we could add that, that would be fantastic. And I heard, I don't remember who it was, but I know we have set a target for our school system for the 2024-25 school year in terms of where we want to be, and we'll be periodically evaluating until we get to 24-25. But is there an idea of how frequently we will be assessing until then?
Hannah, my audio kicked off again. Did you say how? I just heard how frequently assessing, but I wasn't quite sure what you were asking about assessing.
Yes. So until we get to 24-25, fiscal year 25, which is where our goals are set in terms of each of our concrete numerical measures, how frequently will we be assessing if we are on track to meet those 90%, 95% measures marks?
Well, we're definitely going to be tracking and annually coming back to take a look of where we're at. But it's important to note that when you look at the data, a lot of that is our summative data or our end goals. So we will be tracking every year. And we have discussed the fact that we need to take a look holistically at the strategic plan every year and say, are we on target? Were our strategies working that we identified as being our highest priority? If not, why not? What are we going to do about it? Perhaps we'll need to change strategies, or maybe we meet a goal or we surpass a target. So that reflection will happen annually, but it's important to note that although that will be happening annually within the district, we are going to be taking a look at data on a regular basis. And obviously it depends on when those touch points are based on when data is available and when things are going to be assessed. But the vision is that this data is being examined and reported on a regular basis. It might not always be in the format of saying like specifically about the strategic plan, but the goal is really every time we come to the board table that we're coming to the board table with the data, with our progress, so that we're constantly taking a look at how we're doing along the way.
Okay, I think that would be a great thing to just note on the plan that we have, maybe just an asterisk, something like the strategic planning committee will be reviewing annually to see if we're on target to meet these long-term goals. So, and sorry, I just quickly skipped over my comment about not measuring the racial demographic breakdown. Is there a reason that wasn't included, or is that something that can be included in terms of enriched opportunities?
So it is something that can be included. I think one of the reasons when we think about our processes for reviewing students, it's a race-blind process. And so part of our process is not to factor in race, but to really look at other things like services. So that's one of the reasons why it was intentionally not included, because for the last few years, for the entire time, we've had a race-blind process. So we don't intentionally look for certain racial ethnic groups in terms of placement into programs.
Well, I don't think we have general counsel here, but if it is legally allowed to track that, I think it is an important indicator of who we're serving in these enriched opportunities and who we're missing. I really don't want that to be overlooked. Thank you. That's all.
Ms. Evans?
Sorry about that. I had to find my mute button. Thank you for the level of detail. I know we had you all go back and forth, and I appreciate that we show the baseline, we show, and so my dog, I should apologize. She's always in agreement with what I'm saying. So we'll just bear with me with her in the background. She's a puppy. But I appreciate that we will be reviewing the data on an annual basis, and that we do have in performance target rate of 2024 through 2025. And I did want to add to what Ms. Hazel was saying. She is correct. Our curriculum was approved by the board in February of 2019. And so it is a new curriculum, but it is good to take a look. But I did want to say that we had a large amount of students come and testify and give comments to the board on the new curriculum that we do have in place, where they felt that they were able to see themselves in this curriculum, and that it was reflective of the diversity of our student body. So I will say that we did get a lot of feedback from our students. And so that was really good, that we try to do as we say, collect input from all of our stakeholders. So I didn't have any questions in this section. I just felt like there was a great more level of detail to have us to be able to show what our objectives are, how we're gonna, what our indicators are, how we're gonna measure it, and I'm pleased. So I'll let someone else ask a question if they have it.
Ms. Harris.
Yeah, thank you. That was a lot. So I was furiously scribbling notes, and I have a few questions, and I'm gonna, I think, go chronologically through the presentation. So one of my first question goes to looking at priority area 1, academic excellence slide, and looking at improving student achievement in literacy and mathematics. And I noticed that for students with disabilities, the component overall score goal for 2024-25 performance target is exactly the same as it is for all students. And what I want to know is, I guess, two-part questioning. Do we really mean all students with disabilities, even our most severely impacted students? And if so, are we looking at modified curricula instead of the same grade level curricula as students without disabilities? And then the second piece of that is, are we truly working with the expert boots on the ground instructors to make sure that the content that is being delivered to their students and the way it's being taught is designed to truly serve those students and their needs instead of meet benchmarks being pushed down from the system in a very top-down way.
So I can answer your question, Ms. Harris, related to the students with disabilities component. I think the first piece of clarity is, and I appreciate your question, is that the students with disabilities component from the equity accountability model is focused on diploma-bound students. That's the first piece I think that provides clarity. What I do see as an opportunity for us is to come back to the strategic planning committee and share more information about the various components of the equity accountability model, because it's complex and detailed, and I don't want to spend this time going through it, but there is an opportunity to share more kind of why that performance target is the same. So I think once you gain more clarity about kind of what is it and what are the measures within it, it will provide more clarity as to why the performance target is as indicated.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. Moving on, and I think this builds a little bit on Ms. O'Looney's questions around curriculum. One of the measures mentioned is that we are aiming with professional development and teacher training to accelerate students, keep students at their current grade level, trying to build in the unlearned content from last year without actually going back and necessarily teaching last year's content. And I think we've heard from teachers, we've heard from students and families that they're feeling quite stressed from essentially being expected to skip a grade. And for a lot of students, and we know this because we've measured it and you've reported it to us, that a lot of students quite fell behind in their learning in the pandemic year. And I'm just wondering, how are we really touching base with our primary customers, the people we really, really care about, and the teachers who are in the classroom with them, to make sure that this approach is actually working well in the classroom? Because we are hearing about a lot of students and staff being quite stressed with this model.
Yes, so we're hearing the same. We certainly had a meeting with stakeholders earlier this week and heard from a student and a parent who are feeling some stress around this. But we have really been following the research, and we also know that a lot of our content, most of the content that we're speaking about is mathematics, and a lot of it kind of is taught kind of cyclical. So you start with the standard, and just with those standards that are being taught during a unit, we want our teachers to start in that grade level. But certainly if they have to reach back to the standards that were taught the year before, to kind of build in that foundation before they really move forward, then they will do that. And so it does take a lot of planning on the part of the teacher to really analyze the data, student data, and also kind of look at where the pacing guides recommend they go back and fill in. So our team in curriculum and the team in school support and improvement are in schools every day working with teams and teacher leaders, and also providing training to resource teachers, content coaches, to support them with this effort. So you're talking about being on the ground, they're in the schools on a regular basis, helping them with that planning. And certainly it's not easy. We know that based on the data that students really have a lot that was missed or didn't make the growth that we would have hoped. But we really do believe that if we take the stance of starting where we were 6 months ago or 8 months ago, for many students, they will not make the progress. And so we have to continue to move forward and build in as we do so. And so it can seem frustrating for some who may feel like they don't quite fully understand it. But our hope is that over time, we continue to teach those skills, do very short informal assessments to see where they are. That's why we have a lot of supports in place around the tutoring, interventions, and just paraeducator support to make sure that they're meeting with these students in small groups so that we can hopefully begin to fill in any areas where students may be demonstrating a need.
Yeah, thank you. And it will be interesting to see, as you know, the objective measures that we will be collecting as we move forward with this approach, how if those bear out what the research seems to be saying. But I also wonder, the objective information is important, of course, because we want to see how our students are learning, but also subjective measures. How are we? And I don't claim to have any expertise in this or have any ideas, but I think the subjective piece is also very important here. We don't want people, staff, teachers, students, certainly families, to be miserable in the attempt as we move this approach along. And certainly we don't also want to be in a place where we're engaging all these high dose interventions and pressuring, pressuring students, recommending students, however that's working, in ways that are forcing them to give up things that actually kind of feed their souls. If they're a musician or they're an artist or they're a scientist and they really need that content and they need to be able to spend time in those areas, and that if the pushing to achieve certain, to keep moving forward, and the high dose interventions are having a negative impact on them subjectively, how are we measuring that, and what are we prepared to do to remove some of those pressures?
So that's a great question, and certainly we can work through with our partners in Office of School Support and also our student engagement office, just to kind of come up with some ways that we can measure and check in with our students and our staff. But we also have to, it's a fine line, because we just want to make sure that we are moving our kids and that supporting our teachers, and we're not falling further and further behind. But I certainly hear what you're saying, and we will come up with some measures and ways that we can check in with our students and staff around this area.
Thank
we
you.
can report back to you next time on what we'll do to check in.
Thank you. And I think part of it too is, I think as a strategic planning committee, be very interested to hear directly from the boots on the ground, because so many of the strategies here require professional training, support teams, transition teachers, working with special education coordinators, primary talent development coaches in schools. And it sounds good. But the proof is in the pudding. So it would be really good, I think, for us to hear in a very safe space from those who are charged with actually doing the work in the schools and making sure that they are seeing progress, and that they feel that the measures and that the tasks they're being asked to perform and the training they're being provided to perform it are actually are successful. And I don't know how to create that into a measure, but maybe it's not a measure. Maybe it's just having that session to hear directly from those who are, doing the work in the classroom, if that's possible.
Yes, absolutely.
And then one of the things too, we talked a lot about not just exclusively working with our newcomer students, having coaches to support the teachers working with those students, and looking at students who are coming to us with interrupted or limited prior educational experiences, and keeping those students on grade level. And my question goes to, how are we being very mindful and willing to look at the fact when they just aren't at grade level? And I think sometimes we've seen a lot of pressure to keep students meeting certain targets and being at grade level when that's not what they need. And we need to, and are we going to be willing to look at what's best for each learner? And if that means they're not at grade level and we let them go to the grade at which they're comfortable and ready, that we'll do that.
So again, when we talk about what we are calling our SLIFE, the students in SLIFE program, or students with that limited formal education, those are our students in elementary school. And during the pandemic and even just before the pandemic, we had given certain circumstances to put those students into their home schools, because at that time the numbers were increasing to such a large degree that they had to go to their home schools. And we provided those schools with direct support. We found those students outperformed the students that were in the elementary METS programs. And so we decided, based on that data, to have them all go to their home schools at the elementary level. And we have hired these 6 coaches to support the schools. And so certainly if there is an individual student who needs something different than what is being provided at the grade level, we will certainly consider that, or the schools will consider that with the coaches on a case-by-case basis. But we really do see that the data, when they are in with their grade level peers and have that language modeling, which is really important. So the academics may not be there quite yet, but they have the language modeling, then they really do pick up that English very quickly. And with the help of those teachers, the ESOL teachers and also the SLIFE coaches, they're getting that content instruction. The standards might be the same. Maybe their materials are not quite at the same level, grade level, that the other students are. But the goal is that over time, they will be using materials that are at their grade level. But it's, again, developing individual goals for those students to get there. At the middle and high school level, we're still continuing with our METS program. And so those students at certain levels receive instruction in literacy. At level 1, they're receiving ESOL instruction. And as they get through the higher levels, they transition into English courses with ELD supports from their ESOL teachers. So again, case-by-case basis, we want to monitor our students, but our goal is to keep them with their grade level peers for that modeling.
Okay.
Ms. Harris, if I could ask you to wrap up or ask the final question, we have an hour left and not even past the first section yet.
Yeah. This gets to the career and college readiness, and I think these 2 are for Mr. Murphy. I think it's great to see the emphasis and having a better process around making sure all students are aware of middle college, early college, dual enrollment. And I would just observe that as someone who tried to create a dual enrollment program at the school where I taught, and then as a parent of a student who tried that as I think there's a lot of work that falls upon the dual enrollment coordinators at each individual high school. And I don't think they're all created equal. I think there's some best practices out there. And if we could, one of the things that we could look at measuring is, and maybe replicating, or some of the dual enrollment coordinator best practices to ensure that no matter what school our high school students are in, they are getting good information, demystifying the enrollment process, and helping them to make it best. And I will just make that both a suggestion and a request, and I will end there.
Thank you. I think it's important that we spend time on this section. This is so important to what we're here to do, teaching and learning and MCPS. Some of my comments are, I didn't see summer school or tutoring specifically outlined as an intervention for literacy and math. And I wonder if you're putting all that under the bullet about high dose evidence-based interventions, or if you might want to highlight those, because those are big parts of our 2.5 plan recovery. I'll leave that for you to consider. In terms of high school graduation, one thing that I've noticed in the data is that we have expanded access to SAT prep, and it's free, and that's great. But what I see is that specifically for Latinos, they're not breaking 1,000 yet in terms of average SAT score. And so I feel like the next level of work that we need to do as a system is to provide SAT prep to schools or anyone that needs it, free SAT prep, because everyone that can pay does pay for their children to get SAT prep, so that they can get the additional boost and preparation that other kids are getting who have the means to get SAT prep. I don't know if that's not the solution to getting those SAT scores up to break 1,000. Of course, it's part of the comprehensive high school education, but I think in our SAT work, I see that as the next area of work to make it a little bit more equitable for those students. Around enriched and accelerated instruction, I want to make sure that Black and Brown students that test high in math are going to get placed in advanced math in 4th grade. You know, that was a big result from our EIRS study that we weren't doing that. And so I don't know how that fits into this plan, but I just wanted to make sure that you're thinking about that. And there's a system in a way to check regularly and report out that that is happening, so that we don't forget about that important indicator. Along the same lines, ESOL students represented in advanced courses in elementary school. Just make sure that we're not keeping kids back from advanced instruction because of being English language learners. In college and career readiness, dual enrollment, please pay attention to FARMS students in dual enrollment. I think dual enrollment has grown exponentially, and that's fantastic. But the last time I looked at the data, we still had some work to do in terms of students impacted by poverty participating in dual enrollment. And they're the ones that have the most to gain because they can qualify for free access to those classes. In CTE, we talk about expanding access, and this is just an overall comment to all the presentations. Let's be very careful with our language to try to be as specific as possible. Expand access to CTE. What does that mean? We're going to promote it more. We're going to enroll more. Just wanted to have you look at that language to be a little bit more specific so that we know what you mean. Same with Kid Museum and Montgomery King Code. What's the goal? Are we going to grow it? By how much? Just more specific language. You also use the term educational ecosystem. I don't know what that means. Again, just paying attention to language and saying what you mean. And then just, we have all these partnerships, and I wonder if there isn't any work that needs to be done to improving the pipeline to Montgomery College. Over 25% of our students go to Montgomery College. It's the #1 receiving college for Montgomery County Public School students. So is there more that can be done to facilitate kind of the handover for students that want to go to Montgomery College, so that it's easy and seamless And maybe you are working on that, but I'm not aware. I just think that because the number is so great in terms of our graduates going there, we need to make every effort to make sure that it's a seamless pathway. When you talk about FAFSA, please also talk about the MISFA, because if we don't mention it, then we're not mentioning it to our students either. And that's state money that is available for students that don't qualify for the FAFSA. And finally, I didn't see a mention of Summer Rise under our career programs. And I know that's a big effort that has grown a lot. So hoping to see that inserted in some way. So with that, we can move on to area 2.
So thank you very much. So I am going to turn it over to Dr. Keisha Addison to go over the outcomes and the performance indicators for our second priority area of well-being and family engagement.
Thank you. So the second, can we bring the slide deck up, please? Yes, thank you. The second priority area is well-being and family engagement. There are 3 objectives for this priority area, which I will elaborate on in the next few slides. Next slide, please. Under well-being and family engagement, again, there are 3 objectives. The first objective is presented on this slide, which is promoting positive, caring, and supportive district and school climates respectful of student and staff. And there are, 3 indicators under this objective. And the first indicator is family, student, and staff feedback surveys. You will notice under the baseline column, we indicated as new. And this really is because given the pandemic and the limitations to distributing our climate surveys to stakeholders, we put that on hold. However, surveys will be administered this school year and will serve as our baseline. You will also notice the next indicator is district provided training for students and staff to promote positive school culture. This is still in progress in terms of identifying all of our baseline data, but what is included is the culture of respect student training module that was implemented last school year and had a completion rate of 52%. And so our performance target is 100%, which is not indicated here, but that is our performance target. And then the next indicator indicated is district provided health and wellness programs for students and staff. Next slide, please. The next 2 objectives under this priority area are indicated on this slide. The first one indicated is implementing school level practices to support effective behavioral health management systems. And with this objective, there are 4 associated indicators focused on areas such as implementing the % of schools implementing restorative practices, the % of schools implementing social emotional learning curriculum, the % of Black or African American and Hispanic Latino students receiving office referrals for disrespect, disruption, and insubordination, and the percentage of Black or African American and Hispanic Latino students receiving out of school suspensions for disrespect and disruption. And those last 2 indicators I shared were based on feedback from the board in terms of elevating referrals and suspensions. And what you'll notice for those 2, the percentages under baseline are the combined percentages for either office referrals or suspensions. And the performance target is the goal in terms of reducing the overall percentage to 50%. And so with a goal of having it more commensurate with the overall enrollment for those 2 student groups. And the last objective under this priority area is to implement culturally responsive family engagement that promotes 2-way communication and empowers all families to be partners with MCPS to ensure student learning. And there are 4 indicators under this objective. And what you see here are family workshops, % of families with parent view activations, % of community stakeholder groups represented on district committees, which is a new area for us. And we continue to collect that information. And the last indicator under this objective is innovative communication strategies to reach families. And this one, again, will require us to conduct an inventory of existing strategies and to determine through best practices ways to reach more families. Now, next, Mr. Everett Davis will share strategies under this priority area.
Thank you, Dr. Addison, and good afternoon to the members of the board, to Ms. Silvestre, to Ms. Evans, Ms. Harris, and to Ms. Aluni. I'm pleased to represent Student and Family Support and Engagement, along with the SFSC, as we call ourselves, directors who are in the virtual audience, to share how we are supporting strategic priority area number 2, well-being and family support. If we could go to the next slide, please. As you can see, our first objective is to promote positive, caring, and supportive district and school climates, respectful of student and adult learners. Regarding Prosper, this directly aligns with the P in putting our students first, as well as the S, supporting staff to meet student needs. I would like to highlight several of the strategies that will be used to meet this priority area. For the purposes of our time together, I will focus on those that you may not have heard presented to the board previously. I know that you have heard much about our Leader in Me social emotional learning curriculum, so I will start off with the results from the anti-racist audit, particularly how we are using the results of the community relations and engagement area to inform how we engage with our families and community. You will hear more about this in the third outcome later in my remarks. Also, we continue to work with our colleagues within the Office of Teaching, Learning, and Schools, as well as across MCPS to seek support from the Equity Initiatives Unit to organize study circles for our students, staff, and families. Just this week, our team sought support from the Study Circles team around communities coming together efforts in one of our high school communities that was impacted by recent boundary changes. Also, this past week, I was privileged to be a part of a cross-functional team that has provided support to a high school that has experienced challenges around safety and security. Through the support of many of the offices listed in this final bullet, as well as others, we were able to identify and address barriers that would allow for a safe, positive, anti-racist, and culturally supportive learning environment for all students. Next slide, please. Our second outcome under strategic priority area number 2 is implement school-level practices to support effective and efficient behavioral health management systems. Again, I will highlight those that may not have been shared with the board previously. Just yesterday, Ms. Jorenby, our SFSC Director of Student Engagement, Behavioral Management, and Academics, shared with the Policy Management Committee supports that our restorative justice coaches and teams continue to provide to all middle and high schools. Our ESOL transition counselors, also known as ETCs, continue to receive and provide culturally responsive and trauma-informed social emotional learning professional development through such programs as neurosequential training and cultura cura. Our restorative justice team has developed a behavioral management framework that prioritizes the areas of repair, support, restore, and secure. This includes the work of a cross-functional team, including a suspension work group, to review our current discipline practices and policies, particularly around the disproportionality related to our African-American students. Our work with our student well-being teams, as well as professional learning related to reintegrating students, continues to emphasize mental health, trauma support, opportunities for implementation of restorative practices and approaches, as well as an emphasis on safety, accountability, and restoration. For example, Ms. Jorenby and her team have launched a monthly restorative justice professional learning community that is designed to support and guide the restorative justice coaches, as well as any member from the designated school team who would like to participate. This will provide not only an opportunity for the restorative justice unit to provide support, but also for schools to collaborate and partner. Next slide, please. Our third outcome is implement culturally responsive family engagement that promotes two-way communication and empowers all families to be partners with MCPS to ensure student learning. As I was reminded during a community engagement meeting last night, where we had approximately 350 parents, this outcome continues to be a critical component in connecting for the success of all students, which aligns with the community relations and engagement component of the anti-racist system audit, as well as with our core value of equity. Through work with our SFSC team, particularly through student, family, school services, and pupil personnel and attendance services, we continue to establish and elevate the level of family and community engagement from a level of involvement to engagement to advocacy, and provide culturally relevant tools and resources to do so. We continue to partner with our schools and community partners, some of which you see listed here in the third bullet, to provide opportunities for MCPS staff to connect with families in the community. This includes through our Community Navigators initiative, which includes our pop-up shops, which I know several of our board members have joined us, such as our recent Say Yes to the Test event at Paint Branch High School. Other events include our multilingual, virtual Parent Academy to-go sessions, door knocking, town halls, as well as several evolving traditions that you might have heard from our principals during our last community and stakeholder engagement committee meeting. In addition to analyzing our participation data in family engagement events, we are collaborating with Dr. Addison, as she mentioned, and our colleagues in OSA to develop metrics that will allow us to better understand the effectiveness of our family engagement efforts, such as through a parent engagement survey. Finally, we are partnering with our colleagues in the Office of the General Counsel to revise our community involvement policy. Just this morning, I was part of a meeting to engage our community partners and parent leaders around the school naming policy. I will close by sharing a discussion that I had recently with several MCPS colleagues. It's centered around challenging the phrase hard to reach families. And to summarize the conversation, it is not that our families are hard to reach. It is our obligation and opportunity to find alternate ways to engage all families in a culturally responsive way. Next slide, please. So at this time, I will turn the presentation over to Ms. Silvestre for discussion.
All right, let's start with Ms. Evans this time.
Sure, thank you. So Mr. Davis, his presentation was right on point because I was going to reference some of the outcomes that Dr. Addison mentioned, directly correlated with the work that's happening in policy, whereas Mr. Davis stated that we had a policy meeting yesterday and we did some revisions to our policy. One was policy JGA, student discipline, where there was a revision to include the language as a result of a House bill that included restorative practice language in our policy, as well as Ms. Duranby. She was really great at having the discussion around the importance of us changing some of the wording in our policy where we reference discipline to change it to behavior management, just stating that, words matter. And as we are trying to make repair and not have a reoccurrence of our students in various discipline matters, that we can make those slight changes, those adjustments, and have some better outcomes for our students. So I do really appreciate the work that's being done in the various offices to help us, the board and the district, reach or meet our priorities and our goals that we're setting forth in our strategic plan. And just as we're trying to make certain that as our students graduate, that we are infusing equity in the education of our students, right? And then we also had a policy that came before the policy committee, policy ABA, community involvement. So this is right on time, and that work will be done. We have Mr. Landsman on the Zoom today in working in partnership with Ms. Frost and Mr. Hernandez. They will be doing that work and reporting back to the policy committee throughout the year, or reporting back on their work that they're doing. And it goes to what Mr. Davis said again, that, you know, we do say, and I am a victim. I mean, I've said it many a times, and I will change my language, that we always talk about the hard to reach families, but what it is just intentionality. And, you know, we are not a perfect district, but I do see where we are constantly trying to make adjustments and meet our parents where they are. And that has really come through in the work that has been done with the pop-ups, with the door knocking, with the say yes to the test, just in all the work. So I just encourage everyone to stay apprised of our work, and it takes time to see these results, right? We've been talking about the opportunity gaps for years, right? And so we have this equity and accountability model. We've done the equity resource audit. We have our accountability model. So we're working to make these changes, and who knew that we would have a pandemic, right? But as we continue to hear from our parents, we are making adjustments. We're making good use of our money, I believe, to include interventions that can help our students along the way. So those are just my thoughts, that you see how everything is coming together, and look forward to continuing to get report back, and I will turn it over to my other colleagues.
Ms. Saluni.
Yes, so I had just a few comments about the indicators that we're using. The first is just a very, very small detail, but it caused me a bit of confusion when reading. So it's actually grammatical. Right now, when we are looking at the objective of implementing school-level practices to support behavioral management systems, one of our indicators reads percentage of Black or African American and Hispanic Latino students receiving office referrals for disrespect, disruption. And it sounds like of all of the Black and Latino students that we have, 65% have received office referrals and 80% have been suspended out of school. If we just switch those clauses around, I think what the intended purpose of that indicator was of the office referrals, this percent of students were of those minority groups. So I think if we just switch them around, am I right in assuming that?
No, yeah, you're right on point. We can change it to the percent of office referrals for that. Right, gotcha.
Great. Yeah, that would be great. And then the second is a bit more substantive. It's on the second slide when we're talking about indicators for culturally responsive family engagement. It says number of family workshops and community outreach events right now, but I don't think that's going to really measure what we're trying to get at. The number of events that we hold, you know, the people who are attending those events might be the same at all 67 of the events that we held last year, right? We're not really measuring who is attending right now. So I would like to maybe add something or change it to number of unique individuals attending, right? So that we're measuring who is coming, not just how many we are having.
No, that's a great point, Ms. O'Looney, and that's one of the conversations we had. And one of the things that, and I see what you just elevated as part of where we might actually want to put that as a strategy, right? Because part of it is a strategy to build a system to ensure that we're capturing unique individuals that attend our different family workshop opportunities or community outreach and events. And so, you know, as we continue, and as Mr. Davis shared, you know, we're doing these pop-up shops and we're doing all of these things. We need to create systems to ensure that we're able to capture that information. And so one of the things that Ms. Sharon has shared is that the strategic plan is a fluid document. And so we recognize opportunities to, as we build better systems, to have that information to adjust some of these indicators that are listed.
Right. I definitely agree that it is a strategy, but I also think it will be a very telling numerical indicator of where we're at. So I would love for the system to be tracking that. But that's all for me. Thanks.
Ms. Harris?
Yes, thank you. My first question goes back to, I think, objective 2, implementing practices to support behavioral health management. I think all of us are hearing about incidents happening in schools at all grade levels. And I think in some ways, this goes to what we all said we would expect after 18 months of pandemic and understanding that almost everybody walking back into our school buildings, whatever their role or their age, are going to be traumatized. And we need to expect to see that trauma come out. And, talking about infusing our schools with trauma-informed practices, giving people the tools they need to recognize the signs and help students and peers and fellow staff members when their trauma triggers were causing disruption. But I think, I think even looking at raw numbers, we're seeing increased numbers of incidents. And so a couple of indicators that I would suggest we might consider adding. You've got, percentage of schools with implementing restorative justice, percentage of schools with social emotional learning, looking at the referrals. And I did pick up on the same thing that Ms. Oluni did with the way some of those were worded. But I would also add or ask that we consider adding as indicators the percentage of our staff who have received the de-escalation training that has been available for several years and is invaluable to help in classroom management. And I would think having as many of our school-based staff as we can receive that training can help diffuse some of the situations that we are seeing and hearing about. Maybe not, certainly not all. But then also the perhaps percentage of students and staff who have taken the level appropriate mental health first aid course as well, which not only helps individuals cope with trauma, but also helps them to recognize the signs in others. Because of, the more trauma infused practices we have throughout our schools, I think all of these indicators are going to, all these measures are going to come down if they need to come down and go up if they need to go up. So that's just an observation and a question. I know there are incident reports that are created when things happen in schools, bullying, damage to restrooms, that kind of thing. Are we doing a bit of a hot wash in the aftermath of those events to look at the practices that we used to respond, restorative justice, whatever, and to have safe conversations with those involved to see how well those practices or those responses met their needs in the end, whether they were someone who made a bad decision, whether they were someone who suffered from the bad decision of others. But are we looking at how we're responding to those incidents and then also working with those involved to make sure that how we respond is doing what we hope it will do in restoring and healing and atoning?
So I would think, Lynn, I think what I can respond to from a strategic plan perspective around that data collection is that when there is an incident at a school, a referral is generated. And 2 years ago, they had added all of the restorative practices, because once the referral is generated, it is then, you then go back into the system as an administrator or a counselor, and you write about what the response was, as far as, so we can track what was done as a result. and what restorative practices were implemented in response to an incident. So we can track that. And that is some of what we are doing through our referral tracking on Synergy.
Is there a way to add to that, that subjective piece of the individuals involved and their impressions of the process when it is concluded?
So I think we would have to think about, because remember, it would need to be a standard way of doing that in order to make sure that the data was collecting for the purpose of strategic planning was accurate and systemic. So we don't have a form in place that we use currently as a district to determine that. So we don't have that currently at this time.
I do think that's one of the most important things. We can implement all these measures, but if in the final analysis, we aren't achieving the result that people feel safe, welcome, and valued in their schools, then we're not achieving what we say we want to achieve. And then just my last question, again, appreciating all of the information here, it's a lot. I think Mr. Davis mentioned that one of the things that we're doing is to ensure that all central and school-based leaders receive professional development on culturally responsive family engagement. Do we have numbers on how many of our central and school-based leaders have actually completed that training and their assessment of its value?
No, thank you for that question, Ms. Harris. We don't. I think that could be, I don't know if you were insinuating that could be a potential indicator. But yes, that is something that we could track as well.
We do have, and John Landsman's on the call because the equity unit are the ones that actually created that culture responsive family engagement. I believe that can be, John, can that be tracked? I'm assuming yes, because it's through PDO.
We do. Anybody who participated through PDO, we do have an evaluation and we can bring back the numbers. Some were done outside of PDO, but we can bring all of that back to you.
And I do just want to add that for the next priority area 3, that's where we also have some numbers connected to professional learning in some of these areas.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. My main comment was around family engagement as well. And again, to me, family engagement is such a broad category that I would really like us to focus on communication with families, making sure that our workshops cover how to advocate for your child, and making sure that parents understand grades and assessment so that they know where their student stands and they can help seek help for them or pat them on the back. So, if we can tighten up our measures a little bit so that it reflects that and not just the universe of family engagement, that would be great. And one thing I don't see here, and when I say communication specifically, again, I have teachers and parents need to be able to communicate in order for this to be successful. And so I really would like some strategies that directly affect the communication between the teacher, individual teacher, and the individual family, not the universe of communication strategies. We can communicate, but if the teacher and the parent are not able to communicate, then we're missing the mark here. That's the gist of my my comments on this category. So we can move on to area 3.
Thank you very much. And again, Dr. Addison's going to start us off with our third and final priority area around professional and operational excellence. Dr. Addison.
Thank you. Can we pull up the slide deck, please? Thank you. So the third priority area is professional and operational excellence. There are 7 objectives for this priority area. One is missing from the slide, which is to improve the strategic recruitment strategy in order to support the social emotional well-being of all students. Next slide, please. Presented here are the first two objectives under this priority area. The first objective is to increase district-wide culturally relevant professional learning for all staff to support our goal of equity and to increase their capacity for teaching. Under this objective are three indicators. The first indicator is the number of teachers and school leaders completing district professional development focused on instructional strategies. Our baseline data reveals 12,634 unique staff members, which, although not included here, is across 351 courses. And as part of the board meeting where we presented our preliminary indicator information, there were questions about how are we examining the effectiveness of these courses, and that is something that we will build toward more to provide that clarity. The next indicator is the percent of professional learning offered for new teachers, and our baseline percentage is 92%, and the performance target is 100%. The next objective on this slide is to increase professional learning opportunities for teachers and staff in the area of trauma-informed practices in order to support students' social-emotional well-being. Under this objective are two indicators. The first is the number of professional development courses offered, and the second is the number of staff completing professional development courses. This is a new area connected to the response to the pandemic and at the end of the 2020 school year. As we continue to explore our courses in this area, what you see here are two courses that were focused on trauma-informed practices for staff to access. And for those two courses, there were 493 staff who took these courses, and our performance target is to increase by 15%. Next slide, please. The next two objectives under this priority area are presented here. The first presented is to improve strategic recruitment strategy in order to increase high quality workforce diversity. And there are three indicators under this area. The next objective is to improve connectivity and satisfaction with MCPS technology. And there are two indicators under that area. A number of the indicators here are new, and we anticipate using the 2021-2022 school year to obtain baseline data in the areas that we can. Next slide, please. The last three objectives under this priority area are to improve the strategic recruitment strategy in order to support social-emotional well-being of all students, to connect the district's financial plan to the strategic plan with the goal of aligning all district resources and increase transparency, and to continue to provide and maintain safe and clean facilities to ensure accessibility and support the learning environment. A number of these indicators are new as well, and we do not yet have baseline for some of them. For the indicator listed as percent of schools and offices completing emergency preparedness activities, we're in the process of obtaining the baseline information, and again, intend to have that ready for the full board meeting. This ends my portion of the presentation, and next Ms. Rogovoy will share strategies under this priority area.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here to share how the Office of Human Resources and Development will support priority number 3 regarding professional and operational excellence. Next slide, please. So under this priority to increase district-wide cultural relevant professional learning for all staff and support our goal for equity to increase their capacity for teaching, we know that through the new format, the Assistant Chief of Professional Learning and Development is a new role, which has provided us as a school district an opportunity to take a fresh look at all professional learning and development that has occurred across MCPS. So our first work is to do an analysis of the current state of professional learning and gather some baseline data. This analysis will include professional learning that has been led in the past, conversations with stakeholders and representatives, and a review of all data related to the impact of professional learning in the past, and research on current best practices, to name a few parts of this work. Once this analysis is completed, we'll form a cross-office planning group to create a professional learning and development strategy that will be comprehensive and serve all employees with high-quality professional learning and development, with the ultimate goal of impacting student achievement. This work will take a bit of time. And as we know, the professional learning can't wait. So we are leading the design, development, and implementation of some very focused professional learning this year on mitigating learning disruption. We're working closely with our partners in OTLS to develop and deliver the professional learning that will be delivered in meeting spaces that already exist, that will include principals, teacher leaders, staff development, teachers, and paraeducators. We will thoughtfully evaluate the implementation this year with a focused attention on impact of student achievement, and want to ensure that what we are doing is getting to the classroom and making positive difference for students. This year, we're working to expand and strengthen the year-round supports that will be offered to new teachers, and we'll be adding a year-round support to new central service staff. Along those same lines, we're working on furthering developing the new principal network that all new principals are invited to participate. Next slide, please. With this goal of increasing professional learning for teachers and staff in the area of trauma-informed practices in order to support students with social emotional well-being, we're working with a variety of angles to provide professional learning opportunities for staff around trauma-informed practices to support students' social emotional well-being. Currently, we're working to hire a mental health coordinator who will further develop the existing training we have on trauma-informed practices. And the coordinator will develop additional trainings that will be offered in a variety of formats to meet the needs of our staff. We're also supporting school leaders as they hire social emotional learning coaches. There is funding under Title I schools to hire full-time coaches, and we're using ESSER funds to support the non-Title I schools to hire part-time coaches, and with the thinking that we will share the SEL coaches with other elementary schools. The recruiting and hiring for these positions are underway with a focus on Title I schools first. Finally, we will support the onboarding and training of new SEL coaches as they take on this new role, and we're going to collaborate with principals on the content for this training and collect feedback from both the new coaches and the principals as we roll this training out. At this time, Travis Wiebe will continue the presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Could we have the next slide, please? Great, thanks so much. I'm pleased to be able to share the work of the Department of Certification and Staffing, which lies within the Office of Human Resources and Development, and how our work aligns with the board's goal of improving the strategic recruitment strategy in order to increase high-quality workforce diversity. In DCS, we've collaboratively developed a 3-year comprehensive strategic recruitment framework, which is a multi-pronged approach, inclusive of a robust recruitment calendar, leveraging existing and building new partnerships, developing and implementing a grow your own plan for our current MCPS students, inclusive branding, media, and communications, and alternative pathways to certification. Our recruitment team is thrilled to be on the road again after a year of virtual-only events. They're working to increase our visibility across the country and recruiting and networking with candidates for all positions. The 2021-22 MCPS recruitment calendar includes over 74 visits to colleges and universities with a deliberate focus on increasing attendance at historically Black colleges and universities, as well as Hispanic and Asian serving institutions. In OHRD, we strongly believe that every MCPS employee is a recruiter for the school system. And as such, we're strategically leveraging our existing talent to actively participate in recruitment events, job fairs, and interviews. We want to ensure that MCPS builds relationships with colleges and universities early and often in order to hold a competitive edge when hiring. We have increased the number, frequency, and target audience of our job fairs and virtual information sessions for potential employees as we work to continue to expand our candidate pools. And additionally, we're working to reduce the barriers in the application process by redesigning the MCPS Careers website and simplifying the application process. We know that we've built strong internal and external partnerships over the years, and as we work to innovate and address our unique staffing needs, We have a strong desire to review, expand, and adjust partnerships moving forward to ensure that we are increasing our pool of diverse candidates in our critical shortage areas. As we compete for candidates with our local school system neighbors, nationally and internationally, we must continue to think creatively to ensure that we're offering the most competitive, comprehensive compensation package. This collaborative effort is ongoing work with our partners in the offices of finance and professional growth systems. Recognizing that many potential teachers may not have completed a traditional teacher education program, we're going to work with our certification unit and MSDE to develop an alternative certification plan to increase the diversity within the teacher candidate pools. It's a challenging time in the world of staffing, and that is an understatement to say the least, but we're confident that the new strategic recruitment framework will support the board's goal of increasing our high-quality workforce diversity. So at this time, Ms. Sharon will continue the presentation regarding technology goals.
Thank you so much. Next slide, please. So this objective focuses on improving connectivity and satisfaction with MCPS technology, and this is going to be pivotal moving forward. As most of you know, we have added over 100,000 Chromebooks as well as 14,000 laptops during the pandemic. In addition to over 30,000 hotspots that were distributed out to families and staff. So we have, in essence, changed the infrastructure of our educational system when it comes to technology, and we have improved the access, but we need to make sure that we're continuing to do so and that we're moving with the times as we do that. So as I said, for the past 2 years, MCPS has provided an umbrella of services to ensure that families are connected to the internet, where they can access resources, engage in learning beyond the school day. So one of the key things that we want to continue to do is provide the mobile hotspots to students who need access to the internet. And as I said before, over the last 18 months, 30,000 hotspots to families and staff who needed help with internet access have been distributed. We also are going to continue to partner with our local service providers to connect families to internet services. We've worked with Comcast, Verizon, and other local internet service providers to connect families at discounted rates. And we want to really work strategically on promoting this as a way to expand access beyond the school day for families. One area that we plan to focus on in the upcoming year is to provide parent outreach and training resources for accessing MCPS platforms for student assignments and grades. We have heard from our families that they need support in accessing and understanding how to navigate through Parent View, Canvas, My MCPS Classroom. So we plan on creating additional resources that are available in a culturally responsive way and in multiple languages to help our families access these items and other resources to better support their children. While we have spent a lot of time and effort and resources on ensuring our classrooms are connected so that students and staff can connect to the internet, we're going to continue to monitor connectivity and usage in schools, and we're going to enhance our infrastructure as needed as we move forward. We did survey our parents and students on connectivity before the pandemic, and we used that data to drive the umbrella strategies of services related to connectivity here. We're going to continue to be surveying families again this year to get feedback on the current state of connectivity and ease of using the MCPS platforms. We're then going to use that data to elevate how well our strategies are working and to close gaps in access beyond the school day. I will now turn it over to our final presenter, Ms. G.D. Dawson, who will continue the presentation on professional and operational excellence.
Good afternoon, Ms. Silvestri and board committee members. In order for us to truly meet the objective of aligning the strategic plan to the district resources, most important thing is to gain input. And input is really required from both our internal and our external stakeholders, including the Board of Education, the superintendent, MCPS staff, students, employee associations, and community stakeholders. This is done during the budget development period, which is current and begins in July and extends through the time that the budget is adopted in June. MCPS chiefs and managers will perform an analysis of their current department budgets to determine if there are any potential reductions, realignments, and redundancies, and at the same time determine if there's a need for funds due to enrollment changes, inflation, rate changes, or grant shifts. In addition, there's a determination by staff based on stakeholder input, such as the Budget Advisory Committee, a very diverse group of internal and external stakeholders, representative of the county and district, and the need for budget accelerators to meet the needs of students, to be innovative. And in addition, to have adequate funding, these budget additions must meet certain criteria, such as conformance to various system objectives, such as anti-racism mentioned earlier in the presentation, and a clear alignment to the strategic plan. In addition, the budget development period, MCPS, we're also monitoring adherence to the strategic plan and increasing transparency by providing a monthly budget to actual update, our financial monitoring review. And this is to the board and the county. We added a detail review, which includes the ESSER funding, to our monthly financial review and the monitoring presented to the board. The budget unit provides projections on salary accounts, current balances, including salary encumbrances and biweekly payroll as part of that financial monitoring. And we review by state category in that review that works with the superintendent and projected an end of year fund balance. A tool which MCPS has put into place to assist in the timely and in the accurate budget and financial data tracking and reporting is the new ERP system. The state-of-art enterprise resource system has been rolled out in different phases, and it's over a 4-year period in total. The final phase is currently being worked on, and this is around payroll and the human resources system that's scheduled to go live January of 2024. Next slide, please. The Division of Maintenance and Operations under the Department of Facilities Management is also in the process of implementing a new computerized maintenance management system, and that will enable the the Division of Maintenance and Operations to effectively track work orders and the progress of work orders to improve efficiency and predict equipment replacement needs. The current work order system was implemented 20 years ago. And since then, technology has become ubiquitous and has evolved tremendously in how it is used. Our selected system, Asset Essentials by Dudes Solutions, provides greater business intelligence for all aspects of facilities management with key features such as mobile app functions, ease of use, as well as being a cloud-based system. Additional benefits and deliverables include the utilization of a strategic approach to planning and carrying out facilities management and maintenance. The development and documentation of consistent maintenance processes, as well as improving the use of facility maintenance processes. Implementing a performance-based measurement approach for continuous improvement. The implementation of Asset Essentials will allow for a better alignment of the maintenance functions, which will facilitate several positive outcomes. The reduced risk of failure of critical systems, decreasing emergency repairs, outages, and response requirements. Increased customer or stakeholder satisfaction externally and internally. A more effective preventative maintenance and corrective maintenance application, and reductions in life cycle costs. Prior to the pandemic, MCPS has faced significant challenges as it relates to the facility preventative maintenance. And as we navigate that post-pandemic world, the function of preventative maintenance and quality assurance has been heightened to levels never before experienced. While a cohesive preventative maintenance, which we call PM team, has been explored many times in the past, it's now imperative that that PM work is performed consistently in all of our schools by trained individuals in a timely and organized manner. The pandemic, if it's taught Nothing else. It's taught that many of the routine PM tasks, like changing numerous filters in our mechanical systems, cannot be left to a time allows approach. As we in a school district must be able to confirm with confidence that this type of work is being performed routinely at all schools and support facilities consistently and correctly. It's important to point out that elementary schools represent over 65% of our school facilities and over 45% of our total square footage of school facility inventory. This information is critical to the rationale for the change in our elementary schools and how they receive the lowest levels of support at times in service and staffing, and often do not have assistance with preventative maintenance work. It's crucial that we provide equitable levels of support throughout the entire system. Following the school opening, we had a training process and a transition to a central reporting for this preventative maintenance team. And it took effect following Labor Day and throughout the month of September. A summary of some of the implementation details featured are the preventative maintenance team individuals maintain their current home school, and a home school continued to serve as their primary work location. PEOs became PM technicians and specialists. High school PM workers care for the needs of their high school plus one neighboring elementary school 1 day a week. The preventative maintenance team members at middle schools care for their middle school and 3 neighboring elementaries 1 day a week at each location. The preventative maintenance workers report directly to the operations facilities managers and work collaboratively with the school building service managers. This work assures outside of the home school performance evaluations and any disciplinary matters are handled by the operations facility managers. We also have one cohesive team approach when it comes to a new custodial team pilot that is positioned under the Division of Maintenance and Operations to allow for the opportunity to plan, adjust, and manage day-to-day operations. It's provided some streamlined processes and efficiencies. And also, it determines cost savings from these best practices. Ms. Silvestri, this concludes our presentation. We're prepared to respond to questions at this time.
Thank you so much. Ms. Saluni.
Yes, sorry, I just had to find the unmute button. Thank you all, everyone, for all of the presentations today. In terms of this priority, I really wanted to comment on the level of detail in the professional development review. I really appreciated that. I hope that we can extend a similar level of thoroughness and detail in reviewing our curriculum that hopefully we can add to the strategic plan as well. I also think that this priority, this third priority in particular, is an area where a yearly review is definitely not going to be sufficient. And so all of these areas and all of these strategies are things that we're going to continually have to evaluate throughout the year to improve throughout the years we're recruiting to get more diverse teachers and to improve our professional development, because things are shifting so quickly with our staff and in our schools. So those were just 2 very quick comments. Thank you again for all the work that you put into this.
Ms. Harris.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll try to be very quick. My first question is all the professional development building on Ms. Oluni's comments. I'm hoping that very soon that we will have more than 2 trauma-informed practices courses that we're offering our staff, because that's been a priority area a lot of advocates, allies, and staff have been pushing for years. And then when we're looking at all the professional development options offered, are we making a concerted effort to ask our staff what they want and need to make themselves as effective in their roles as they can be? I know that was not something that I was routinely asked as a teacher. Are we taking that more seriously at this point?
Yes, that's part of the needs assessment too. We're gathering input from several different ways to get teacher voice into that needs assessment.
Okay, thank you. Quick question. So we're hiring social emotional learning coaches. What are the qualifications for somebody to serve in that role?
Is that something we can get to you as a follow-up, Ms. Harris? It's just trying to stick to the strategic plan.
We'll pull the job description and share.
And then I think this is for Mr. Wiebe, and we're looking at, I think we all have seen the data about the overall demographics of our staff. We're overwhelmingly white. As we look to diversify, are we going to be getting in our staffing updates information about when a staff member leaves, retires, resigns, and the person who comes in to fill that role, you know, are we kind of measuring to see if we're enhancing our diversity in those hire to hire decisions? That would be a good demographic to see, I think. And then I didn't hear, and please apologies if I missed it. I didn't see anything in all of the recruitment strategies that are outlined, anything that's really intentionally reaching out to our students, because everything we need in a workforce we have in our 160,000 students. If we can just encourage them to think about coming back to us, and whether that's as a carpenter or a social worker or an engineer, it's not just teaching. So are we doing anything to look at really intentionally encouraging our own students to come back to us?
Yes, thank you for the question. And you're absolutely correct that we did highlight the grow your own piece, which is certainly more targeted toward teachers. However, the other areas in which you describe are also part of that plan. As a subcomponent to that, we are connecting with all of our career tech ed programs and also thinking about that as an additional pipeline, because again, you raised the point, and one that we 100% agree with, that we want MCPS to be a place that people come home to, whether it is to teach or to be an electrician or to work in our cafeteria, whatever it is. We have a job for you, and we know that people do not often travel too far from where they grew up. So yes, that is part of the plan.
Great. And then the last question I have, looking at the tech and improving our connectivity and satisfaction, I didn't notice anything in there about staff. And as someone who was very recently on staff in the classroom, you know, what are we doing to make sure that the technology we are requiring our teachers to use and the programs we're requiring them to use, like Synergy and Canvas, are actually reducing the time they need to spend on technical and administrative functions, so that they have more time to devote to the work in the classroom?
So Chuck or Kara, I'm going to pitch that question to one of you in the audience.
Or if we need to talk about that later, that's fine. But such an important thing when it comes, especially the workload that our teachers and staff members are experiencing right now. Last thing we want to do is they have to spend 2.5 hours trying to sync Canvas and Synergy.
Thank you, Ms.
Hi there. Yep, I can address that a little bit. We have made some upgrades to technology that our teachers have access to. As you know, last year with Chromebooks, we had a lot of teachers asking for a stronger technology. So we made investments in laptops. We also handed out hotspots for teachers where connectivity was an issue. We have taken strides to make sure that we're monitoring the connectivity within classrooms. We're also investing as we can to upgrade the Promethean boards so that we have interactive panels where Chromebooks and laptops can then seamlessly display up on the interactive panel. So we were really taking strides to not only upgrade the technology that's available, but also really work to see how it all fits together so that teachers are not bogged bogged down in the technical pieces, and they can actually focus on how they're using the technology to build more engaging lessons for their students. We've also taken some put upgrades in our help desk, in our ServiceNow help desk applications, where not only now can teachers put in help desks, but help desk tickets, but when they do, they also have immediate access to quick guides, resources, question and answer guides, so that they don't have to wait for that response to come back. So we've been working on that. We continue to listen to our teachers and hear where they want additional help and support around technical ease, so that we can then, keep meeting their needs as they go forward.
Thank you so much. I will be brief since we are out of time, but in the Area 3 section, I think that the issue about principals in high impact schools is kind of lost without its own objective. So I would like to add an objective. We can work on the language, but it would read something like develop a principal career ladder to attract and retain effective principals in high need schools, with strategies around how we assign them and how we support them.
Ms. Silvestri, did you think it was a strategy under one of the objectives, or are you saying a separate objective? I just want to.
Separate objective currently is under there's diversification of the workforce, and it's really not about that. And so I can share that language, or we can work on some language together. The recruitment, staff recruitment slide is very rich. I really appreciate that. Maybe we could just organize it in a way so where our big ticket items are at the top. For example, you have develop a 3-year plan. That's big and exciting versus maybe some of the things that we're just continuing to do. Just organizing with the big aha initiatives at the top. You did mention the Grow Your Own program, but it's not in the slides. And so I just ask you to please make sure that all these wonderful initiatives that you're working on are actually reflected in the slides, because that's going to end up in our strategic plan. And same with Ms. Dawson, you had a great narrative, but I wasn't sure if everything that you were mentioning was captured in the slides. Around the budget, I'm really struggling with what is possible, but what I want to make sure that we are exploring, and even if this is aspirational and we can't do it just yet, we need to be able to show our community how our dollars are being spent and what is working, that ensure that the dollar that's being invested in the student is having an impact. So, I don't know how to reflect that, but I just want us to work on that. The budget only shows new initiatives and new interventions. So how do we show the community how we're spending our money to achieve these 3 priority areas and closing our gap? So that's the purpose of kind of putting this budget item under strategic plan, is how do we communicate to the community how we're using our money, and then just continuously looking to see what's working based on those investments. And finally, I leave you with, we've added the word community to our overarching goal of students prepared for college, career, and community. But I just ask us to reflect what strategies in this plan support preparing students for community. If we're going to put it in the name, we need to have some strategies that actually lead us to that end. So not for today, but for an ongoing thinking, since this is a document that we need to get finalized for our next board meeting so that the board can approve it, but we'll continue to work on it in the upcoming 3 years. And with that, I think that do we want to talk about the annual plan? Robin? I don't see her on here. So we'll be sharing with, there you are.
Hey, Carla, sorry, I had to run my Zoom froze, so I ran to Elsie's office. I think just an acknowledgement that it's there and any input from committee members. I know we're running short of time, so if there is input from committee members, they can send it to Elsie or I or to you directly as we continue to formulate these agendas.
And where is?
It's posted in board docs right now for the committee, and you should have all received it by email as well.
Yeah, and so the purpose of that is to do some of what you mentioned, Ms. Aluni, is, how do we can't, there's a lot in this plan. So we're trying to focus on some of the achievement data at certain grade levels at times throughout the year when the data is available so that we can see if these interventions are working. We don't want to wait 3 years. We don't want to wait 1 year. We want to be able to look at the data just when the leadership is looking at the data to see, are these interventions working? Are they not working? And what are we going to do about it? So look at the plan, see if that makes sense to you in terms of, we have to pick some things to start with, can't do it all. And so the plan attempts to do that, pick some very high level student achievement information at different grade levels. Wow. Okay. So thank you, everyone. A tremendous work. I think that this really paints the picture of where we're going and how we're going to get there. Is it perfect? No, but our collective brains and effort and blood, sweat, and tears are going to get us where we want to be because our children deserve the best. So thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate your time and work on this. And this concludes this meeting.